Hello, it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais in Ontario, Canada, a very warm, sunny Ontario for a change, which we're grateful for, with episode number 177 of the Yakking Show. This is the show that aims to enlighten you, to enable you, and to empower you, and hopefully to entertain you a little bit as well. But the primary purpose is to give you a new perspective to help you better adapt to the changing world we find ourselves in, and it's changing every day, as we all know. It's not my job to introduce guests. We always have interesting guests, but Kathleen does the introduction of our guests so much better than I do. So it's my job to welcome co-host Kathleen Beauvais from Waterloo. Hi, Kathleen. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Peter. Thank you so much for that intro. And thank you all so very much for tuning into our show. We so appreciate you and we love reading your comments. So please keep those coming. And if anyone out there is interested in being a guest on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Peter or myself. And as Peter mentioned, we do have another special guest with us today. Her name is Natalie Kehren. Natalie, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's lovely to be here. I'm having a great day. And I feel really good today, and I'm excited to chat with both of you and get to know you.
Well, I can't wait to delve into this topic. It's one that is so interesting, and I think our audience will love it too. You are if I can get the words out, an intuitive life coach. You're located in Toronto, but in fact, you work with women from all over the world. Tell us about your background and what led you into a career of life coaching for women.
I mean, that's a really long journey, but I am going to say that it started with my own personal journey with trauma. I do come from a background of abusive relationships and sexual abuse and addiction and having to overcome a lot of different areas of darkness that I had to dig my way out of, and mixed in with a society that is definitely changing landscapes every single day right now. I feel like it's even more rapid than it was before. But back then it was, I had trouble fitting into different institutions because of my sensitivities to the energies around me and just who my authentic self was inside. So I really tried to bury that and mix in with the family background and trauma and relationships. I found myself in quite a place where I felt split in two. So I knew that if I could overcome it in my journey and have my authentic self shine, my gifts shine, and feel really at home in my skin, that anybody could. And everything I learned in my schooling and my training and in my experience with my clients, it just really led me to believe that this work is so important. And that's what really fuels my passion. Is I really believe that helping women heal and transform really is going to balance the energy in the world and help us all live happier, healthier, more joyful lives, which I think we're all valuing so much more since the recent events of the pandemic.
So here's one from my side. I'm going to tread carefully here, being a lone male with two obviously very intelligent, very capable women. I've got to be a bit careful. So Natalie, many people call themselves life coaches, but it's my understanding that not many people really have a grasp of what that is all about. Can you explain a bit more for our audience?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, I mean, life coach is really the umbrella of many different guides and counselors with different certifications who just help people get through life. And I think that that's such an important aspect, to have a guide, to have a mentor, to have somebody that can support you, hold space for you whenever you're going through what life has for you. I think each of us really experiences our own set of challenges and trauma experiences and ups and downs, and having that person there to just help you with perspective, help you process, and really support you can make all the difference in the world for you. And an intuitive life coach just means that I really bring an aspect of conscious living, mindfulness. I help actually women develop their intuitive gifts and their trust within themselves and psychic abilities and the whole spiritual factor that is part of each human. We are half human, half spirit. So that's my understanding, and I really help merge the two.
And just from what you're saying, I think a lot of men could do with that sort of counseling as well. So let's hope we get some male counterparts of yours doing that as well. Over to you, Kathleen.
Yeah. So Natalie, you say that when you clear the inner debris, the entire world will feel it. How would one go about clearing this? What is the process to be able to do that?
So I really work very in-depthly with, first and foremost, the person's unique journey and what they share with me. And it's a very personal experience when signing on with me and working with me and taking that leap into their own transformational journey. But the process is really embedded in my signature program, which was developed out of my own personal healing journey, but all of the knowledge and insight I've gained from my trainings. And there are 8 key steps that, when done sequentially, can really change your life and help this inner version of yourself emerge. And I've seen the most miraculous, crazy, beautiful, wild things happen that just are beautiful and meant for them. And their lives are totally different. And that was a lot of work on their part and us meeting and helping me guide them. But really my process is I'm able to tap into people's energy fields. And this might sound a little wonky and a little woo-woo-y, but it's something that I have, and I'm not scared to hide that anymore, because I did for a long period of my life. And I think more people are starting to emerge with certain special things they have and that they're sharing. So this is one of mine. And I'm finally in a place to be comfortable in that space. And we dig into their subconscious mind, because this is the part of the mind that never shuts off, but records everything, and where things are stored, and memories and experiences. And if you want to go as deep as this, it's past lives and future lives, and it's all there. And every time that there's an energetic pattern or an experience that has created an energetic pattern that's not very much seen by the conscious mind, we can find ourselves in very tricky places. So examples of this are relationships that don't last because XYZ, we either self-sabotage, or it ends up failing, or there's too much fighting, or whatever it is. Job opportunities we just can't seem to get. Trouble with finances, that's a big one. There are energetic blocks that are in the subconscious that sort of leach into our conscious world. And all I do is find them together with my client, make them seen, help them understand it, help them release it, and help them change it. And once they're able to change it with the conscious mind, then their patterning is different, and they actually start to create a whole new life for themselves. And that is a very simple snippet, but it takes a lot of work, which is a big reason I don't put a time. A lot of coaches put like a time on there. So 8 weeks, 3 months, 6 months. And I don't do that, because it is impossible to me to put a time on how much time somebody needs to move through something. And no one put a time limit on me. And I took the time I needed. So I'm really here in a place of just wanting to support from an authentic place people who really, really need it.
So what are some of the biggest challenges facing women in the modern world today?
I would say their lack of connection with themselves, trusting themselves, their intuition, what they truly going after what they want. A lot of us have been taught that we have to sacrifice our bodies to have babies, and sacrifice maybe our passions and maybe our desires in the world. And that's fine. I'm sure most of us do it really willingly, because that's just part of who we are as women. But I think a challenge is women are stuck between following that voice and that calling and that intuition in their heart, versus what society and what has been done from our generations before. And they get stuck in this spot of, I'm supposed to be doing this, but I really want to do this. And trusting that and just going for it. So that's another area I help women sort of find the middle ground there and start to reach out and answer their calling, because there's so much beauty and gifts that can be offered in that space.
Okay.
Amongst many other things.
Right. So when a client typically calls you, what motivates them to pick up the phone to give you a call to say, I really need this kind of help? And so that's the first question. And the second question, you've already talked a bit about this, but if I'm a client of yours and I pick up the phone to call you, what's the process that you would take me through initially just to start working with me
on the call? So my first policy with connecting with a woman for the first time is to get grounded in their story. So they share with me as much as they are comfortable sharing, and they allow me into their inner world for a little bit. And I just give my honest and best advice, my best guidance. And sometimes that aligns with them and sometimes that doesn't. And the alignment for me with a client needs to be there as well. And then we kind of both decide if this is the space that feels the best to journey into next. But really, I like to know part of their experiences, their trauma, where they're at now, what they feel is stopping them. And usually what that is what I mentioned about modern women face in the world is that split. They can't seem to, they want to do this, but they're scared to, or they doubt themselves, or they're trying to listen to somebody else who's saying, no, don't do that. This is how things are supposed to be done. So it's reaching out for their who they really are, their authentic selves versus who they've been trying to be. So, and then I really ask them I explain my process a little bit and ask if they're ready, because you'll never be truly, truly ready, but as long as they're sick of being stuck and ready to make some changes.
Well, that's a great point. And just to bring into my personal experience a little bit, I remember going to university and thinking, I had this vision for myself of being the executive and very business minded. And there was just another part of me that just, maybe that's not what I really want. And there are two sides that they were at odds with one another, not able to come to terms with either one of those sides. So I probably could have used your help going through that. So kudos to you, Natalie. So Peter?
So let's look at that from the other way around. And there's a second part to this question as well. So how do you counsel a woman who actually wants to be and has the necessary financial support to be just a mother and a homemaker? And that's what she wants, but she feels pressured, and there is a lot of pressure, I believe, on young women to succeed in business or whatever academically. But here we have a case where a woman says, I don't need to earn the money. It would be nice. I don't need to. I want to be a mother. I want to be a homemaker, but I feel that I'm letting the side down, letting the feminist movement down, letting women down, not taking advantage of opportunities. How do you counsel her? And there's a lot of, in my experience, there's quite a few younger women like that.
I love that point and that perspective, because that's often not so much talked about and I feel like giving them a voice and being comfortable in their own skin and their choices is really, really important. So that comes down to still basic, a basic approach, which would just honoring themselves. And that's what they want, and trusting that their path and their light and joy is actually contributing to the world as a whole, because you're producing amazing children, because you're home and you're with them. And it's not to say that working mothers don't, it's just that you're so focused on them, being with them, and that is such an honor. We need women like that in the world, who are just giving everything they've got to their children. It's not that all mothers don't, it's just that there's a particular energy of embodying the fullness of a mother and being able to be super present, because even me having children and running a business, there are moments that take away from that presence. As much as, my intentions are amazing and I show up fully, but just guiding them to their own authentic version. I'm sure there's answers and alignment and truth in their stories of why that role and them being called to it is of value in this place and time and in their life and in their heart. So it's just making everyone comfortable in their own skin and their authentic voice, and whatever that looks like, and kind of drowning out the noise around. I think that happens on both ends.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right.
Absolutely.
And would I be correct in saying this conflict, whichever way you look at it from, has become more apparent as opportunities for women have increased? If I look at my mother's generation, she would be 100 if she was still alive. I mean, she fought in the armed forces in the Second World War, not on the battlefield, but she was in England, and she was a Women's Air Force military police woman of all things. But that's the sort of sacrifice women of that generation made, right, in many countries of the world. So she did all that, and then she got married, and kids arrived, and she never actually worked outside the home, but she worked really hard at farming, all sorts of things. And she didn't face, as far as I know, women of her generation didn't seem to face the conflict of, should I be doing more outside the home? It was sort of, and maybe this is part of the problem, not part of the solution, that it was conditioning that women stayed at home. So to try and boil that down to a simple question, has the conflict in women increased because of the increase in opportunities, do you think? Or is it not that simple?
I have to say it's maybe not that simple.
Mm-hmm.
I think the conflict is there, but just has evolved into new layers and new avenues as
Okay.
we evolved as society. So I think back then there were much more different conflicts that they had to face every day. Even being within the home, they might not look the same, but there might still be a similar felt sense and a similar experience in what happens in their body, mind, soul when they have to experience other hardships that I'm sure happened back then.
Sure. There were different pressures. Yeah, interesting. I think you're right. As it's evolved in layers as societies evolve. Thank you. Good one. Kathleen, back to you.
Can you tell us about some of the courses that you offer?
Yeah. So I have a few things, because I like to it's really important that I'm accessible to everybody. So I have some free guided meditations that I truly love. I've created all of them, and they have, I have two series, a 7-day and a 9-day, and they do different things. They have different themes. So they're really supportive of women. Men can listen to them too, if they feel called to. So that's on my website. That's a free offering. I have a program that's sort of like a do-it-yourself online program that I offer one call with me, but it's more just to learn about the subconscious and trauma with some PowerPoints and how to heal. And I give you some journal questions and some meditations to follow. And that's really a nice introductory way into this world. And then I have my signature program, which is really my one I'm connected to so much. It was like the seed and first baby of my business. So it has those 8 steps that I mentioned earlier, and there's no time limit on it, and I follow them sequentially, and I've just seen the most beautiful things happen and evolve out of that. And after that, I have a graduate program from that. And that program is more so for women who want to master and really refine themselves in a way that is on another level, in terms of their awareness, their consciousness, their evolution, and also if they want to start immersing those practices and teachings into their own business or counseling services. So that's what I offer right now. And then I am opening up my own healing shop, which I'm really excited about. And it has a healing journal that has prompts and ceremonies and questions you can answer that just help to support the journey of healing in a very gentle and effective way.
Wow, quite a lot you've got going there. That's very good. How long have you had your business running, Natalie?
Oh, I've had it now six years, I think. 6 years.
Wow, Very good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Mhm.
So here I've got what I call my burning question that I ask all successful guests on this show, and yours are a little different because it's specific to women, but I think your answer would apply to men. So, but let's look at your experience working with many, many women. Would you believe there's one characteristic or mindset or maybe a habit that distinguishes, before and after you've worked with them, distinguishes the well-balanced, contented woman? And I say successful, but I don't just mean about money. I mean balanced, right? Is there one thing that differentiates that person who you could describe as being that from the average who are stressed and just not feeling that way? Is there something?
Yeah, there's really a defining connection that is formed with themselves that is develops such a deep sense of trust. So this inner trust is really such a foundation to stand on. And when you build a house, you have to have the foundation to let the house stand. And when this foundation is well connected to, even if it's a little bit before, and then it's the connection has increased since after the program. This connection is such a foundational driver in success and abundance and authenticity and living the life that you really, really dream of. Because this inner trust helps us ground into the moment, and being present, which I'm sure you've heard in the wellness world, is like what we're all trying to do. Being present really collects our energy in such a way that you're more aligned, you're more focused, you feel more balanced. And I use this example where energy that's grounded and present is like a dewdrop on a beautiful leaf in early morning. It's smooth, it's round, it's so connected. And it's like, how did that ever get to be so beautiful? And then when we're stressed out and we're scattered and we're thinking about the future and we're worrying about the bills and we're doing all these things and we don't have a practice that really grounds us into connecting with ourselves again and bringing us back to that foundation, it would be like your energy is literally scattered. So you would dip your hands in a bowl of water and then sort of splatter it on a screen. And you would see these different splatters, but they're not perfectly round and smooth like the dewdrop. They're kind of all mismatched and displaced. And that's kind of how you feel in your everyday when you're stressed out, mismatched, displaced, all over the place, pulled in 1,000 directions. Then your sleep goes and you're emotional, your hormones get set off, and the story goes it. But I really that foundational inner trust and connection to grounding.
That's an excellent answer. I
Yeah,
think
very good.
when you say inner trust, that's intuition, really. It's trusting that. And everyone is intuitive, but not many of us listen to that, that inner voice that says, no, maybe you shouldn't do that, but you go ahead and do it anyway because your mind sabotages that and says no, and you need to go into a different direction. I think that's hard to do, isn't it? And I think not just for women but for men as well, oftentimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right, Peter? We have that intuition.
Absolutely.
And your inner guidance is saying no, wait, or go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and do it and trust that it'll work out. But then your mind says, oh no, you can't take that risk. You got to pay that bills or whatever, right? Yeah. And it would be interesting to go through your process, Natalie, to find out, well, how do we just trust it more? We hear the inner voice, we're just not trusting it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the split that we talked about earlier, of the mind and the human and the spirit. I mean, that's that split right there. So it's just training it like a muscle. That's how I view it and approach it, is that you just have to keep answering the call. So when it says, grab the umbrella before you leave, and you go, it's pretty sunny out right now, I'm not going to grab the umbrella. But then later on, you're, in a torrential downpour and all of a sudden it's raining. It's just answering like, okay, I'll grab the umbrella. I don't know why I am, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Gonna do it.
Yeah. And then that muscle starts to increase and you also start to learn like, holy, I grabbed that umbrella and look what happened. I got saved from the rain today. So
yeah.
So
Well, that's an
Very
interesting
good.
analogy.
Yeah.
Using
Yeah.
it like
Excellent.
or exercising a muscle. I like that. I really do.
Excellent.
So Natalie, how do people contact you?
So the best platform to contact me on and follow along is Instagram. And that's at natalie.kehren. And if you want to contact me through my website, that's nataliekehren.com. I'm really open to receiving messages and connecting with people. That's what I do for a living, is connecting. So that's where you can find me.
Excellent.
We got a couple of minutes in hand. May I ask another question of Natalie?
Yeah, of course.
I ask permission because I tend to talk too much. So I just check with the brains behind this. So Natalie, it's my experience, my observation, and I'm not a trained counselor or coach or anything, that as people overcome degrees of adversity and trauma in their life, they are better, if they overcome, and let's hope most people do, they are better placed to overcome and cope with the next wave of adversity or trauma that comes along, even if that may be quite different. And I've certainly found that in my life, and I've had a very interesting life, but this is not about me. Am I on the right track with that or not?
Very, very, very much so. It's kind of the same way where it's like a muscle. Energy likes to be familiarized. You kind of activate that new practice of how you coped with the last one. And usually that comes from a healthier place, because through darkness you get some keys that reveal some light. And that's how I like to viewpoint, is some
that's
really
good,
beautiful ways to cope with hard things, and you learn a lot. And so when the next wave comes, you know what to do. You have a toolkit with, I can use this, and you turn to those. And those are more healthy coping mechanisms that we developed through life experiences. Perhaps we've reached out for help with a professional or whatever the case is.
No, thank you. That's what I found, and I thank you for that. Well, good. Back to you, Kathleen.
Well, I think we're out of time, Peter.
Yeah.
And so thank you so very, very much for being with us today, Natalie. That was enlightening. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure.
And thank you all again for tuning into our show. We so appreciate you and love reading your comments. So once again, please keep those coming. And until next time, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.